recording. Spoiler warning, if you read the book, it's not like the book.
What?
Yeah,
I don't want to see this movie now. Okay, hey guys, it's two fat guys at the movies. The Armadillo, Mr. J.
What's up?
I'll take this moment to apologize for the lateness of all the videos.
And speaking of which, if you're watching this one before you've watched The Joker or Terminator Dark Fate, stop right now, go watch those two, then come back to this one.
Right. I'll release those ones first. But anyway, so we went and saw Dr. Sleep. For those who don't know what Dr. Sleep is, Dr. Sleep is the story about the boy, all grown up from The Shining.
Danny Torrance.
Played by Ewan McGregor, which...
Played by Obi-Wan Kenobi.
He looked like Obi-Wan Kenobi in the beginning of the movie. Okay, I don't really want to go in too deep into spoilers on this one. I mean, we can just talk about a couple things, but they did change. I mean, obviously, if you've read the books, I read The Shining a long time ago. I don't think I've ever really read fully the sequel. So, Mr. J has, so he'll be a little bit more...
Well, it's like I said, it's one of those things where, you know what, if you're expecting it to be like the book...
Well, this is the thing, like, we were discussing, like, obviously, this is based off a Stephen King novel, obviously. I wouldn't say loosely based, but, like, inspired, I guess, should say.
Well, The Shining was more inspired because, and I'm going to come out flat out say that I can sit there see where Stephen King was coming from with his gripes about The Shining. However, let's put it this way, your major spoiler warning, if you read the book, The Shining, and in that one, the Overlook Hotel blew up.
Yep.
Well, guess what? In the sequel, in Dr. Sleep, the movie, they actually blow it up.
Right, and we were talking about this before we started recording. Basically, the movie version of The Shining, they changed it to fit more of the times, like what they could do and stuff like that. I think there was a mini-series that actually was more true to the more true to the novel. But now I didn't even know about that until like recently. So a lot of people missed out on that. So when they made Dr. Sleep, it wouldn't make any sense if they had said like, hey, the hotel had been destroyed. Wouldn't make any sense. Because, it didn't blow up in the... Because you have to... Not everybody's going to read the damn book or care about reading the book. People don't read nowadays.
It's not that long of a book.
It's not long. It's not long book. It's not like it.
I've read it twice in my lifetime.
I've read it 3 times. That's how I knew so much about it. But anyways, for The Shining, I read one time. That was a long time ago. But yeah, essentially, so they changed the ending of the book because I don't think Danny died. I didn't read fully Dr. Sleep.
However, the character of Billy was not the one who shot himself. Spoilers, you'll see it, but I believe it was the doctor who he had told about the watch was on the soap dish.
Yep.
He was the one, if I remember correctly, was the one that Snakebite Andy told him to shoot himself.
Again, like, in terms of, like, compare this to the book, because obviously you're always going to lose when it comes to the book. The books have more information. So just looking at this from a movie standpoint, I do have music was The Shining. It was reminiscent of The Shining. They had some couple flashback scenes. Were they trying to make them look like Jack Nicholson?
Yeah,
but it didn't look like Jack Nicholson. But I mean,
obviously you're not going to sit there and make someone look like Jack Nicholson because I'm sure Jack Nicholson himself wouldn't like it. But
they could probably ask him and say, hey, you're part of this franchise.
However, the person who they had played Dick Halloran
looked pretty close.
Pretty close to Scatman Carruthers because he died, and also is the voice of Jazz from Transformers.
Yep. So a couple gripes I have with the movie. So the main cast of the villains, obviously the main is the woman. She's the final.
She's hot, too.
She was really hot. Holy crap.
Nice knockers too. But,
the final boss. But the ending, I mean, for someone who hadn't read the entire book, so the ending of Doctor Sleep was a loot to me. Like, I didn't know how it was going to end. But, of course, like a typical Hollywood film, it kind of telegraphed it. And they said, we got to go back to where it all began. Yeah, they're going back to the hotel. They got into the hotel. I'm like, yep. He's going to release he's going to release all the memes. He's going to release everything.
Actually, let me put it this way. Sure, there were, huge differences in The Shining. However, this one, they were actually pretty closely followed with what it had from the book in there.
I think probably what they changed is what they had to change because the lineup with The Shining. Well,
like I said, I mean, there were actually a lot more people with the top knot. I think that's what they were called. There was a lot more people. There was more of a story that included Abra's grandmother. There was a subplot at the end where you found out that Abra's mom was actually Danny's half-sister because his dad had a one-night stand with a woman.
Oh, right. So technically he was Uncle Danny.
And I'm one of those people that, you know what, I really didn't care that they cast a black actress. I
didn't even think about it. Yeah, honestly, she did a fantastic job. I believed her performance.
It's not the performance is, I mean, it could be any, it worked, but I believe she was actually supposed to be, in the book, if I remember, I think her mom was half, or basically would end up being like half Latino.
Okay, so kind of like Miles Morales, like his mom is his dad is African American, mom is Latino.
I believe, well, that's Miles Morales, but I believe in the book, again, it's one of those things where I don't think they actually ever came out and said, her dad's white or her dad's black. It's one of those things that it doesn't matter, you know what?
No, his character was very minor and he was killed anyways. Spoiler. Okay, we've had spoilers. But they have the shootout scene, which was really well done, but there was a couple things, especially this young girl in the beginning, where she's 15. Obviously, the actress is older than that, but she's playing a 15-year-old girl who's basically stalking older men who are perverts basically, and stealing their money and stuff like that. And she gets taken by them, and instead of being eaten like they do normally, she's turned. And again, for somebody who didn't read the book fully, I was thinking, right? Well, I understood that. I thought there'd be more to her character. I thought there'd be a little bit more to her. She was just kind of wasted, I guess. I mean, to me, it was
well, again, like I said, in books, you can give more information. You can sit there and see what's going on inside a character's head. In a movie, you can't really do that.
No, and I think the only reason that there was a little bit of, in terms of all the other the family members, I'll call them the family members. Out of all the family members, I felt like her and Crow had the most character development in terms of who they were.
It's still like that in the book. They're more fleshed out. Where the other people that were there, they were just part of the gang.
They're just kind of there. And then so when they're all getting killed, I was kind of whatever. I saw they're dead.
Again, like I said, that was pretty close to the book. I mean, there may have been, like I said, there's a few things that changed. But still, it's the same thing. There was a shootout. There was actually I believe it was in the book. It was originally there was Danny, Abra's dad, and again the doctor who was told about where his watch was, and I believe he was the one that Snakebite Andy told to kill himself. That was the one the doctor was, because I believe the dad survived. Like I said, it was one of those ones I'd have to go back and reread because I think I read it earlier this year, maybe.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, it was really good. I did like how it's hard to tell if they actually just, because the footage looked really good. So I'm almost gonna say they because the actress I think think she's either way too old.
Well, Shelley Duvall, but no, it's.
But I think they de-aged somebody to look. Was it footage?
No, it was scenes reshot.
That's what
new actors.
Okay, so that's what I was thinking, because obviously there was a couple of scenes where they recreated the blood and they recreated the.
However, if you've seen the movie Ready Player One, they've also did that in that movie.
Yep. And then also where he's like, you know, walking down the hallway looking for Danny. That was obviously reshot because it wasn't Jack Nicholson. But I mean, when he was looking at the door with the axe mark, and it had the flashback where his mom was in the bathroom screaming because he was coming after her. The footage was so cleaned up that I was like, that had to have been reshot. And that was so good because I couldn't really tell the difference that it wasn't the original actress.
It was reshot because, I mean...
yeah, that's what I mean. It was obviously reshot because the footage looked so clean and it just flowed with the movie versus it being like switched to a grainy format.
Besides, you couldn't have the newer actress playing the Wendy in the beginning and all of a sudden have it go flashback to the actual scene.
Right. And that makes sense. So I was like, okay, well, they did a really good job making it look like the original scene.
Yeah, I mean,
I couldn't tell. And it was fine, you know. I mean, if you want to be really nitpicky about it, I guess you could really frame by frame and say, oh my God, that's not the same actress, you know.
Again, I'm going to say, all I can really say is that what they adapted from the book, you know, that they, you know, that was actually in the book that they, you know, didn't, how do I want to put this? Basically, what they took from the book, they adapted it very well. Yes, there's this changed, that changed, but it had to be changed because they were going off The Shining.
Right, they based this off The Shining movie, not the... Okay, so it's weird. So you had The Shining novel, which was adapted into a film. And anytime you adapt a book into a film, you lose something. Look at Lord of the Rings. There's so much content in Lord of the Rings that was never adapted. It might be adapted in a TV show, but I digress. Same thing with it. Same thing with The Dark Tower, which was terrible, by the way. There's, I'm trying to think of other. The Hobbit. What other movies were turned into?
Just basically any.
Even Ready Player One was changed, and that was based off a popular novel. That was even changed. That was even changed.
Well, a lot of it was changed due to
copyright.
You know, I mean.
You have time restraints. You have, you know, depending on the time, the era the film was made in.
Let's put it this way: there in the book, there was Marvel, DC, you know, references where you had to get permission from Disney. Say, hey, we want to use an X-wing. Can we use it? And Disney, you know, probably could have said, sure, why not? Sure, go for it, Steven Spielberg. Or, you know, and the thing is, they also couldn't use Ultraman in there because there was two companies fighting over the rights.
Yep, there's a company that actually fighting over the United States rights, I should say. Toei still owns the rights to Ultraman in Japan, so I mean, it's...
Well, all I remember reading is the fact that, you know, even Steven Spielberg couldn't get these two companies to say, okay, yes, you can use Ultraman, so he went with, well, the Iron Giant.
Well, yeah, and it was easier to get the Iron Giant because I think Iron Giant was owned by Warner Brothers.
Yeah,
so
that's why you see, you know,
and obviously Spielberg has opened his mouth about how he's tired of comic book films and hopes they go away. And being Disney's bread and butter is comic book movies, of course, looks like, no, you're not going to be able to use that. Well, you ain't going to let you use that. I don't know if that's a factor. But...
I really don't know. The thing basically was a lot of time. It was just too much of a hassle for the rights. Even though War Games was a Steven Spielberg movie, he didn't want, you know, this movie, since he was directed, to be an homage to his stuff, so that's why he changed stuff.
Well, yeah, and that was something that was his decision. He was like, a lot of these pulp
and besides, you know, the author of the book was also one of the screenwriters.
Yep.
So he was the one that, you know, thought, yeah, you know,
let's do it this way. Yeah.
It made sense, and, you know, yes, since the book had been published, time changed.
So obviously, you know, The Shining was based off the book. They took liberties and changed things for the time, what they could film. Fast forward to now, they're gonna make a sequel. Well, if you make a sequel and you adapt it straight from the original book, there's obviously things that are gonna be different because they changed them in the original film. So you'd almost have to look at it as like, this isn't even connected to the Shining movie, which is going to be really hard for the general audience to even think, and it's a hard sell to say, well, this has nothing to do with The Shining, even though it's a sequel to the book. So it's just easier to get butts in the seat and say this is a direct sequel to the Shining film.
If they wanted to, they probably could have tried to somehow make it its own movie, but again, you would have to change.
I mean, honestly, I mean, if The Shining hadn't have been such a cult classic, which maybe the studio said, no, let's not do that. I'm surprised they just didn't remake The Shining and did kind of how they did It. You know, like modernize it, but like adapt it more, because this movie was long. I'm not gonna lie to you, that my only gripe I have with this movie is it's long. It felt long. Like anytime I'm watching a movie and I sit there and I pause in the movie and I go, what time? Oh my god, this movie's long.
Let's just put it this way:
and it was pacing. That's all it was. It was just pacing.
I actually watched another reviewer on YouTube. I didn't care. I read the book, so I didn't care what was spoiled for me. And they said that they didn't really complain about the pacing. They said that the first 2 acts were kind of slow, but it setting up for the 3rd act, which I'm not gonna lie, to me it seemed to go by kind of quick because Rose.
The 3rd act went really quickly.
Because Rose, I mean, again, she was dealt with pretty much more or less the same way.
Well, I knew that was gonna happen. I knew that he was gonna open up the boxes in his head, like he was gonna let her get into his head, and when she was in, he just opened the boxes, which just released them, and then they would eat her. Then I guess in the movie, I mean, I'm guessing that was the same way in the book. So did he somehow? Well, how did he get out? I guess that's where. How did he get away? Because he doesn't die in the book.
No, because I told you the Overlook was already blown up because. Like
that's right. You're right. The hotel was gone. That's right.
If you enjoyed The Shining and you enjoy Dr. Sleep, read the books if you haven't already, because they're 2 different medias.
Yeah, you can't.
I had no problem keeping the movies and books separate. I mean, yes, you say, oh, hey, yep, that was in the book, because like I said, in the book, the baseball boy actually had it wasn't chicken pox, it was measles or something. He wasn't vaccinated for the measles.
Oh, right. So
basically that's the whole Grandpa Flick or whatever the hell his name was. That's how he had gotten sick, since he was one of the older ones.
Yep.
So basically,
and they didn't even bring it up
because you didn't have to. They had the crew small, and because Danny went to visit Aber's grandmother, and as she was dying, because she wanted to be brought to the hospice where he worked, because she knew about him, and
right.
he had asked her for a favor, and in the book he took the cancer out of her and kept it in himself. So basically, in the book, he was getting sicker and sicker until they reached where the Overlook Hotel had been, because I believe like in the book they turned it into like an RV type park.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the book, when they found all but maybe Rose and one of the other top knot characters.
I don't think they even called them that in the movie.
Well, I think they called them the True Knot.
The True. Oh.
Top Knot was Watchmen.
Oh. Whoops.
Anyway, there was one of the. Anyway, basically, so Danny goes into this. Not a picnic area, but more of like a. I don't say not like an indoor cafe either, but it's.
Right.
Anyway, he goes into where this, most of them are, and he releases the cancer, and so they all start pretty much dying as soon as he releases the cancer.
Okay.
And basically, Rose has this one, because this character had, something going on with Snakebite Andy. So basically, since Andy was killed, she wanted revenge against, the little girl,
right,
and whoever was helping her. And get the fuck out of here. Anyway, so she had her hide in this tool shed. Well, what she didn't know is Danny had let one of the pervert ghosts in there, so she ended up getting killed by one of the ghosts that Danny had kept locked inside in a box. And again, Rose kind of went out, well, kind of like Mace Windu. I'm sorry, but like a bitch. I'm sorry, Mace Windu in that movie went out like a bitch. I'm sorry, he did.
Sounds like a whole another video discussion we should have. Holy crap!
No, but anyway, so because basically Rose was trying to hurt Danny, and then all of a sudden, Danny looks up and sees the ghost of his dad sitting there just kind of smiling at him, and so basically I think she had fallen off of was knocked over a railing. And I think she ended up just kind of, just one of those anticlimactic deaths where she just kind of fell off and, snapped her neck or whatever, and it was her dad who more or less pushed her off,
Right.
So like I
Where
said,
this one they kind of like they just like bursted and like faded away. I
no,
can
no,
understand
actually,
like the old person.
Actually, in the book, that's what they did when they were.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, they kind of phased in and out of reality, I guess, if you want to say, to where they were. You can see their skin, and all of a sudden.
Oh, like their skeleton, like if they
muscle.
rotted.
Yeah. Oh no, then it'd be like a skeleton, and then you see like.
Yeah, there was this one real like when the old man was going. There was this scene where his eyes looked like cartoony big. For like a split second, I was like,
yeah, because his skin had disappeared.
I was like, what?
It's one of those things. I think in the book, or to me when I read it, it seemed more like a thing where like the skin would go transparent. You would see like the muscle underneath, and like the muscle would disappear. You see skeletal remains, like the nervous system, stuff like that.
I don't know. I mean. If I like The Shining, I mean, The Shining's not really scary. I mean, it's more of like a like a spooky kind of little sci-fi kind of like holy crap.
I don't know if I would go sci-fi.
Well, I mean, I guess say sci-fi. I guess horror. I mean, it's a horror. It's horror. It's horror. But I mean, it's a little bit more like when I say like sci-fi, like more like you have horror when you have like monsters and like demons and supernatural, and then sci-fi is more like like there's a mystery behind it, like there's a supernatural force behind it. I mean,
no, sci-fi would be if there's aliens behind it.
Well, I guess aliens. But I mean, I guess I always thought that there was aliens, because I guess I felt like there was some kind of alien involvement in The Shining, because
technically, Pennywise was an alien.
Well, that's what I mean. Well, I'm saying is like because Steven Spielberg, he does aliens too, but Stephen King always likes to throw in some kind of weird alien, supernatural from another planet kind of shit in all his books. So like not all of them, but The Shining, I always felt like it was an undertone in the book. Well, so I always felt that, but that's just a personal opinion.
In the book, it was more like supernatural, ghosts. The hotel wanted Danny.
So they wanted him for lunch.
Something like that.
Something like that. But yeah, I liked it. I mean, I honestly, even if you have never even watched The Shining, you could probably enjoy this movie. This was a good movie. The movie was a good movie. I mean, some of the references, like if you've never seen The Shining, like. It would be weird if someone has never seen The Shining.
I'm not gonna lie, I've never seen The Shining the whole way through until a couple months ago.
It's probably been like good 10 years since I've seen The Shining. But like, I mean, it's one of those genres you have to be into. Like I like horror. This isn't really traditional horror. This is it's more of a suspense. It's more suspenseful.
I'm more of a Stephen King fan. That's why I watched the movie. That's
right.
Because I've read a few of his books.
The man's weird.
Well,
holy crap.
Let's just put it this way. He wrote it under the influence of cocaine.
He did.
So, but he's got good books. I mean, it's not his fault that the movies don't turn out as well.
I mean, the only Stephen King movies, and not to get off track too much, but we are still talking about Stephen King. This is a movie based off of his novel. The only movies that they adapted from Stephen King novel that I didn't like was The Dark Tower. I thought it was crap. I honestly...
I've never watched it, but I heard they really butchered it.
I got halfway through it, and I was like, done. I was like, this is even close. This is terrible.
That's like me and the Suicide Squad. I was like, yep, nope, can't watch it. And I have not finished it at all.
It is terrible. Now, I don't have an opinion on Pet Sematary, the remake, because I haven't watched it. But just from the trailers, I can tell it was terrible. All
I know is the director decided to switch it from Gage to the sister Ellie, I believe.
Oh, okay.
So because he said it sounded more reasonable, or an older child could come after you like that. I don't know. I'd be a creepy thinking, holy shit, the fucking baby's coming after me.
Right.
That's just me.
I'm trying to think of another Stephen King. There's not really a lot. I mean, they haven't really adapted every one of his books. I mean,
I do know there was a book. Was it 11? 20?
I mean, there's a couple. I mean,
well, I know there was one that was done into a Amazon Prime series.
Stuff like that, like stuff that's been turned into miniseries and stuff. I haven't really actually looked at, but like for film wise, like that's the only one I can think of off the top of my head that was actually bad. But I like this movie. Like Doctor Sleep, it had a good cast. I felt like everybody had good chemistry. The actors and actresses that were on screen had their roles. Some of them were very minor. Some of them were borderline pointless. But it was all part of the narrative of the story. And they served the narrative and their purpose. So in that, it was good. Score was good. Acting was good. I don't really felt like anybody like was off point. Like, you know, where I was like, oh my god, like as they say, phoned it in kind of thing. There's no end credit scene. I mean, we didn't stay, but come on, there's no end credit scene. Because I don't think there's a sequel to Doctor Sleep, is there?
Nope.
There's only the two. Doctor Sleep is the end of that, you know, storyline. Even though some people say
actually there was The Dark Half, Dolores Claiborne.
I probably didn't. Was that a sequel to The Shining?
No. That just.
Oh, well, I know a lot of people say that like The Shining or like Stephen King's novels are all part of the same.
Firestarter was another one that was
all,
11/22/63 was made into, I think it was Amazon Prime.
Oh, okay.
No, or Hulu. It was a Hulu series. I read that book. Had nothing to do with horror.
Not every one of his books are about horror, but
it was actually a really good book. But anyway.
But yeah, he does a lot of good stuff. I mean, not every book is a hit. Just like every movie's not a hit.
Here's the thing. You may have like a book like decent, but then they're trying to turn it into a movie, and it's like.
What? The problem with The Dark Tower is that because there's a series of books about the Dark Tower, I have not read all of them.
I heard there's.
But they tried to turn it into some kind of cinematic universe. Don't do that. Marvel did their thing. Now, that's another video, but. Like, don't. Just don't.
Well, the way I see it, I think it's more, again, a lot of times you have like 1,000-page book. It's going to be kind of hard to include everything. Again, like I said.
This movie, honestly, you could probably have shaved a half an hour off. But probably. But at the same time, it's like I think about it and I go, maybe if they shaved a 30 minutes off, it depends, like, what would they shave off? And what would you lose? So, because there's a lot of scenes.
I think you'd lose a lot more than you'd think.
That's what I was going to get to.
Because, like I said, I mean...
there was a lot of scenes that just seemed like they dragged out because there was really
Hey, look, it's funny. There's a camper pulling out over there. And where are they driving in the movie? Campers?
Oh, jeez. You're right.
No,
there were some scenes that had a lot of like context to them, even though there was no like talking going on.
Well, let's put it this way: the whole thing with the kid, the baseball kid. I mean, I had to go take a leak, but I knew what was happening, and I figured I'd better get it done during like the first part.
Right.
I should really stop drinking a lot before I go to a movie, man.
Jeez, man, I know, man. I don't know. Considering all the movies that have been coming out over the summer. What movie did we start this on? I don't even remember what movie we started on. But we started this series, and a lot of them were comic book movies, and I think this was just kind of a different... Not all the movies that we watched over the summer, I watched anyway, have been all comic book films.
I think we started it during the summer. I know...
We started after Endgame.
It was after Endgame.
It was after Endgame. But we did, like, Dora, we did Joker. You know what? Here's the thing. We're going to throw it out there. If this video gets 10 likes, we'll go see Frozen. What do you say? Fuck the hell, right? We went and saw Dora. I mean...
Which was a surprise.
Which was actually good.
It was one of those movies where you see as an adult, you go, how the hell did I not see that he was the bad guy?
I know. Okay. I know, right? But yeah, even, like, going back to this, like, in terms of, like, talking, like, that, the ending... And like a lot of the plot was very telegraphed to me, and I'm okay with that. It was executed well. There are times when it's not executed well.
Let's put it this way: if you're gonna sit there and we got Doctor Sleep, The Shining, the movies, the ending worked well.
Oh, it works. It's perfect.
Again, it's one of those things that if you're like any person who's the Harry Potter movies, Oh, well, that didn't happen in the book. Well, good God, man.
Do you have how long her books are? Holy crap.
Yeah, I've read them.
I read the first one, and that was done. I was like, okay.
I read all 7, man.
Oh, jeez, I'm sorry. But anyways, I read the first one.
Well, I enjoyed the books.
I was done. And I wasn't just done because, like, there's just so much to it. And then, of course, I didn't read it. The movie came out, and I was like, oh, God, I'll just watch movies.
Well, here's the thing is the books themselves were the Sorcerer's Stone was a shorter book, and then it kept getting bigger. But again, one of those things, even those books would be, you have to cut things that aren't really necessary to the movie.
Right. And I always feel, and this is a personal opinion, maybe you might agree with this, when you have a novel or graphic novel or comic book, I guess, or whatever, and because that's all a different medium. That's all like one medium right there, like reading. And you take that and you adapt it into a film or television series or mini-series, and you watch it, and it makes you want to go read the novel or the graphic novel or the comics, because you want to know those details that they just couldn't put in the movie because it'd be 5 hours long. You know, like honestly, like if they were to say adapt actually the Infinity War saga from the comics, it'd be like 3 movies. Each movie would be like 6 hours long, and that's just the story of what went on during that event. That's not even counting having to make films, so that it'd be like 60 films just to explain every single character. And there was a lot of characters like the X-Men, Fantastic Four that we didn't even get in that movie. You know, Lord of the Rings. Those movies would have had to been 5 hours long, and they probably would have had to make 4 of them. The Hobbit, still only 2 movies.
Should have been 2 movies.
Should have been 2 movies, not 3. But Lord of the Rings, to get everything that it had, would have easily had to been 5-hour films and probably 4 films to get everything. So there was a lot missed. Just like it. Even though those movies were long and there was 2 of them, they still missed stuff. There was still a couple things here and there they didn't do. Or they changed. Of course,
and
that's okay.
There's the one scene that
even
Stephen King says, like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have wrote that scene.
Yeah, we won't talk about that scene. I know what scene you're talking about. But even like this movie, like if I'm probably sure I'm going to go and probably buy the book digitally, because a lot of my books are digital now. And I'll probably end up reading Dr. Sleep.
It's coming from the guy who wants to collect comics instead of collecting them digitally.
Right. Comics are a little different. Books are a little bit more in the way.
Really,
I might buy the book if I see it. I mean, it's one of those things. I know I'm gonna read it.
Do you have The Shining?
Like the book?
Yes.
No.
You get the book, read that first, then you go read Dr. Sleep.
Like, yeah, I would have to do it that way. But the thing is, there's a couple things like it's interesting. Like I'm about that. You know, what's more about that? You know, but I think that's a good movie. So.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 7.5, 8. Again, I'm
same thing.
I'm not gonna lie. I don't think I can sit there and find any perfect movie.
No.
I'm not gonna sit there and say, oh my God, that movie's a 10, because for me, a perfect movie doesn't exist. There's always gonna be something, that one thing that's like, you know, again, like Attack of the Clones.
Don't talk about it.
Or I'm sorry, hold on, Revenge of the Sith.
I actually liked Revenge of the Sith.
I liked it, but still makes Windu went out like a bitch.
Well, yeah. I mean, there was problems. They had problems. I mean, I saw that film 8 times. Okay. You know, don't judge me. What I will say, this movie definitely had a shine to it.
But
yeah, we're gonna give this movie a solid. I'm gonna say solid 7. 7 out of 10.
I am upset that the fact that they didn't have any cups and/or popcorn buckets commemorating the movie.
Oh, this movie? Yeah. You know what? There was no Dr. Sleep popcorn tins or cups. So movie people get on top of that. These 2 fat guys here, we need our popcorn.
And Cinemark Century Theaters, if you want to sponsor us, if anyone who watches, we will.
We need to. Oh, so we need to do is I need to make like sweaters or like coats that are actually like we can wear in the wintertime that has the logo on it. Because I honestly feel like if we walked in hoodies, if we walked in every like week with that on, that probably they'd take notice. But yeah, the shirts are coming. I've had issues with the logos, so the shirts are coming. So like I said, if this video gets, fuck it, we're probably just gonna see Frozen 2 anyways. I don't even need the 10 likes. But okay, so in the comments down below, Mr. J did make a mistake and something that he said earlier in this review. So if you watched it all the way to the end, let us know in the comments what he said. You did.
What did I say?
I'm not gonna say it.
Yeah, but if they caught it beforehand.
Yeah, but then if they stopped watching, they wouldn't know that there's a prize at the end.
The prize is a Stanley no prize.
Stanley's no prize. All right, guys. That was a review of Dr. Sleep. It's a good movie. Liked it. We gave it, 2 shines. 7 out of 10. Whatever. We don't really have a rating system.
Now bugger off and leave us alone.